Alright, welcome to the second video. My name is Ms. Morris and I am a teacher at Redwood High School.
My name is Mr. Thomason and I teach at Kings Mountain High School.
And today we're going to be looking at evaluating reliability in sources. So last time we talked through choosing a research question and then using that research question to go find some sources. So in the meantime, what I've done is collected a group of sources.
So we're going to kind of go down what's called a website evaluation checklist. And these are things you could look for with respect to your website to see whether you can more or less trust the information that's on there and whether you can use it in a research paper, use it for creating an argument, or if it's just some dude's opinion that decided that they want to write a blog post. So first of all, you want to look at who made it. Who is the person who both wrote the article themselves, their credentials, whether they're a professor, a doctor, or some kind of expert, they have a degree in the field that they're writing about, so whether you can trust them in that kind of way. One of the easy ways to tell that, even before you click on the Google link, is to see if the extension for the website is .edu, .gov, .org. Those kind of things are generally indicative that you can trust the information that you'll find there. And you also want to look at the institution that's published the website, whether it's a newspaper that's like a New York Times or Washington Post kind of newspaper, or you can look to see if it's by an organization that you trust, like the CDC or that kind of thing, where you can obviously trust the information that you put on there. So that's the first thing. You want to look at who made it. You want to look at also if there are a lot of ads, like on both sides. Lots of times that indicates it may not be objective. You want to look at when it's last updated. In academic research, you want to look at how recent it is, because the further back it goes, the less reliable generally it is, because there may have been some research that has happened since then that would supersede or override the article that you're reading now. You want to look whether it's easy to find the information to, whether you have to pay for it. Sometimes that's kind of a turn-off, I guess. Also, whether it's easy to find, if the site's easy to surf. If it's not, it tends to indicate that they're trying to hide something. So those are the kinds of things you want to be looking for. I would pay particular attention to the first couple, though. Who has been writing the article and the company for whom, or organization for whom, that they were writing.
So let's look then. I have my research question here, which is text messaging a positive or negative force in teen literacy? And then I found 14 sources. Now, I don't want to go over all of them right now, but let's look at a couple and maybe talk through whether or not these are reliable. So this is an article that I found from the New York Times called "Texting May Be Taking a Toll." First of all, I see the New York Times made it. Do you think the New York Times is a pretty reliable source?
I think probably so. I think it's been around a really long time. So, okay. Yes.
So I can see the author's name right here, and it looks like there's a link to more articles by her. That's probably a good sign too, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And it was published in 2009.
You think if the New York Times is publishing more than one article by an author,
it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, sure. It's absolutely right.
And I can see it was published in 2009, so that's not super recent, but it is fairly recent. It looks like there are some ads on the page. Like there's one up here at the top for Barack Obama and then another one for Obama over on the side. But that's pretty much all the ads. That's probably a good thing, right?
Probably, especially for a newspaper. They're going to have some ads to keep their site online.
So I think I can determine that this site is fairly reliable. Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
So this is actually a PDF I found from a university. I'm not sure which one now that I've clicked through, but it's in .edu, and I know that that's a fairly reliable file extension. It was updated April 16th, 2009. That's fairly recent.
You especially want to look for recent sources when you're talking about things like text messaging, something that's much more recent. And you can also notice they have citations at the end and at the bottoms of the pages too. That's a good sign.
So you think this one's pretty reliable?
At first glance, it is. You'd have to read through it, obviously, because sometimes the PDF files can be kind of sketchy. The more citations articles have, they tend to be more and more reliable because they're sending you out to references that give you more information and tell you where they got the information from. So if they go to the trouble of doing that, usually they can tend to be trusted a little bit more.
The title of this article is, "Yo, can you please help me write English?" What do you think about that?
To me, that title definitely shows bias. I mean, we're not getting into the bias of things right now, but it certainly seems to be not a news article. It seems to be indicating that the author is against the use of texting in class. And regardless of his argument, it doesn't seem like an article with a title like that would be very academic in nature.
And what I'm also seeing is that it's surrounded by ads. It also says it was posted in March of 2003, so that's pretty old.
Right. So lots of things about text messaging obviously have changed between 2003 and 2012.
And yeah, there's no other information about the author anywhere. That's probably a source I shouldn't use, right?
It's not one that I would spend a whole lot of time with, no.
Next one is from a website called parentdish.com.
That doesn't sound too promising.
No, it doesn't. So it's from 2006, and there is a link to author, although I'm seeing at the bottom it says that she's just a blogger. So it seems like she's a guest blogger on this website.
It does not appear that, call me a cynical old biddy to that, but to that I say LOL. It sounds like, I hate to say an older person trying to sound funny, but it's biased if nothing else. And also you can notice that it's written in first person. And then of course the point that she's making, I don't have much occasion, not just that it's first person, but what she's actually saying. I don't have much occasion to spend time with preteens and teenagers. Not only is she writing a first person article, she's writing a first person article about something that she does not appear to have a whole lot of perspective on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I should not use that one.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, the next one I found is from a website called Youth Voices, and it says it was published actually only a couple of months ago, so that's probably good. Uh-oh. So you just said using I sometimes is a bad sign. I see a lot of I's here.
Really, honestly, it depends on who the person is who's writing. If it's a random blogger, maybe not so much. If it's a person writing an opinion article that is writing because this is something that they've studied extensively in an academic setting, obviously, then I would be okay.
So it says, it seems to indicate that they are a user on this website and not kind of a paid staff writer.
Then maybe not so much. You want to be really careful about that kind of thing.
Now here's something I noticed when I read it the first time. Now, I haven't studied my share of psychology and sociology, but this idea can be strongly supported by just looking in the dictionary. For example, texting language has become such a part of our society that even LOL has been added to the English Oxford Dictionary. That strikes me as being a little off, like they're not really an expert.
And the person's admitting they're not an expert too, which is good on them, but it's not something that you would want to use in an academic research paper for sure.
Yeah, and there's lots of things in here I'm seeing that are worrying. They said they didn't have background information on how texting affects social standards, so they're doing a little bit of research. So they're in the same position that I'm in, where they don't know that much. Right. They're looking for information. And it also sounds like, from what some of the stuff you just read, that they're kind of making it up maybe as they go along a little bit. So it's a lot of their personal opinions, there's nothing wrong about writing blogs about your personal opinions, but that's not something you want to use for academic research either. Okay, so I won't use that one. Okay, I've got two more. This one is from parentingforums.org. So it's a .org. That's good, right? I don't know about, but forums maybe not so much. I don't know. That's always kind of, because you never know who it is that you're going to be reading information from. So, and there's lots of ads around the page, and it looks like you have to sign in to get access to some of the content. And there's lots and lots of random pictures throughout the page. That's a very cute family, but I don't know what that has to do with your particular message, right? No,
So,
I think this is probably one I can abandon.
I think probably so.
All right, my last source is from the Huffington Post, and this is something that I've heard of a lot online. I did notice that there's a lot of ads, though. Lots of ads everywhere.
And it doesn't really appear that there's much to that article. Isn't it like 3 sentences or something like that, maybe?
Yeah, it looks like it's one.
It's just like a summary or something.
Yeah, so
Oh, even better.
probably
So
not a good idea.
Good, is it?
No. Okay. So we've gone through all my sources. Now I think I have a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for. So of those 14 sources that I found, how many were reliable? About 8? 9?
Yeah, about half of them. Yeah, sure. Maybe a little bit more than half. So that's actually doing research like this for the first time through. That's a really good percentage. And then of course, you don't forget all of the links that were at the bottom of the pages too. I mean, you could start pulling some of that stuff in too.
Okay.
So
I think
you at least have a pretty good start.
So the next step, I guess, would be to start putting my sources together in some sort of kind of document or format that would help me make sense of them and know which ones to come back to. Because I know that with 14 links, if I just say, oh, I'll remember which ones are reliable, if I don't write it down, I probably won't remember.
Absolutely. You probably need to go back to your list if you've even started a list and erase the ones that are unreliable. And then maybe you want to start even sorting them into which ones are in favor of using text messages for teenagers and for literacy and helping them to write, and which ones are opposed to it, and kind of start dividing them down like that, so you can kind of start thinking about your actual argument that you're going to make in this paper too.
Okay, so I think we will leave that for the next video, but we will cover all of those things we just talked about in the next video.